Good evening, and hopefully we've got our technical difficulties behind us tonight. Wanted to persist and speak with residents tonight. We on a 3-week loop between our last council meeting and tomorrow night's meeting. So, hopefully people new to tune in tonight, and we'll share this after we get done having a conversation. Wanted to talk about something that continues to create a bit of a cloud over the environment here in the mayor's office, and that was the unexpected and truly unfortunate passing of the service department superintendent Al Baker back on July 26th. Al's been responsible for ice and snow removal, the street paving and maintenance programs, any of the water and sewer maintenance activities, and has done a really tremendous job in whipping our parks into shape over the last 3 or 4 years. So it's truly sad that we lost him, and not quite honestly not sure exactly how we're going to replace that position, because Al wore so many hats so competently. So one of the last things that was done before he passed was the completion of this year's paving program, and done by a local contractor, and although it really was a block by block kind of route selection, I think we picked some of the worst routes, and really believe, given the small budget we had for street paving this year, that was something that was really a big accomplishment. And as I said a minute ago, we're going to take a little bit of time and try to select the right person to replace Al Baker, but he truly will be missed, and hopefully citizens won't see a decline in service, but we're going to work real hard to get him to get a replacement in there. Probably the other topic is, I've been out in the community a lot over the last month or so, that I'm hearing a lot about are utility bills. Hearing about a couple of different things. One generally is the high utility bills. I think that attributes back to the fact, and it wasn't a great surprise at City Hall when the nearly record power consumption translated into individual power bills. So over the past 8 weeks or so, we've had two of the largest consumption of electricity, the largest months for utility, kilowatt hours used in the 5 years that I've been in office. So part of the reason people's individual electric bills are up is because they had a high consumption over the past couple of months. There's been no increase in rates, and in fact, council that looks at the power cost adjustment, one of the three components of your electric bill, when they looked at that here in August to decide whether or not to raise the PCA, that's going to remain at its current rate. So most of the reason that many people had electric bills above what they might have expected had to do with just a lot of consumption, a lot of hot weather. One of the other items that affected some people are those people on the budget plan. They know and found out in some cases, the hard way or an unfortunate way, that in July is when we true up or measure up the actual consumption over the previous year to what was the estimated consumption. And if for whatever reason a particular household was using more electric over the past year, 17 and this half of 18, they may have seen a catch-up bill or a need to make up for what was lower than estimated monthly budget plan. Now, while that happened with some people, I think by and large the budget plan is one of the things that's been instituted in the last handful of years that's made paying the electric bill a little bit easier, a little bit more predictable for those people who are budget oriented and kind of planner saver types. So hearing a lot about that, I would encourage people, if they have questions about their electric bill or the water side of that utility bill, to go ahead and give us a call at the utility office, and And I find that both the meter department and the billing office staff are extremely patient in going through the bill and trying to have our customer have a better understanding. One of the things, last thing I'll mention on electric, is that it's going to be changing over the next billing cycle, is what we hope is a simplification of the actual bill itself. We're switching vendors to a more of a local-based business to do the billing and actually sending out of the bills, save us a little money, and bring that contract back into the county. So hope that the newly redesigned bill eliminates some of the confusion with late payment and what someone owes in terms of the shut-off date and when they actually will have their service terminated. So we'll see how that goes and expect to get feedback, knowing that some of the changes won't make everyone happy. So I know particularly this time of year, and certainly during the winter when your furnace is going a lot and you're trying to use the electricity to blow the heat through the house, those are our two big peaks as far as electric consumption. And so I know it caught some people by surprise, but there's a little bit of an explanation of why we have electric bills where they were at over this past cycle, monthly billing cycle.
Okay.
Any questions?
Yep. First question tonight comes from Andrew regarding the issue of trains blocking the tracks. Is there a possibility the city could get a pedestrian bridge installed so that people can walk across when the train is stopped?
You know, I think the short answer to that question is it's possible, but when you look at the engineering of that kind of bridge, that it would be extremely expensive. You need 22-foot clearance above the rail to the bottom of the bridge. So if you think in your mind's eye, that's kind of roughly a two-story building. And the approaches going back along, if you were to put them up on a graduated grade versus steps, would go back several hundred feet on both sides. So you would be back probably near South Street or the AMVETS on the east side, and then back probably near Foxy's or the Metro Housing on the west side. So there's some practical issues. I think the other part of it is, although I know it's an inconvenience when you're stranded there, I think probably the biggest issue would be where's the money going to come from for what seems like a simple idea, which it is, and a good idea, but it simply would be a multi-million-dollar project. So that's the I guess the straight scoop on that, and probably the best I can do is say that it can be designed, but it would be a really large bridge. And if we didn't, in the absence of a school or a major shopping center or some sort of attraction on one side or the other, parking on one side and something on the other, I think it's probably unlikely to happen in the near term.
Okay, that's the only question we have so far tonight.
The commentary on social media, just make a few observations about that as it relates to Portland Way North. I absolutely get the frustration and the urgency, both in terms of getting the speed limit down so we have fewer of those crashes out there. But I can tell you that it's going to be a few years till we actually get the money and get the project designed to widen that. In the nearer term, and one of the issues that's on the agenda for council tomorrow night is the acceptance of the annexation of the old Pico property. It's about 15 acres, if I'm not mistaken. And that really is the last step needed to bring what would now be more than or half of that intersection under city control, which would then allow us to be the highway authority. We think that's the pathway to getting a light designed and installed sometime next year. I've mentioned it several times on these Facebook Lives and dozens more times in talking with people, the procedural steps that we have to go through in order to qualify in terms of the highway criteria, the highway warranting for a traffic signal. And so this is one of those procedural steps, half the intersection in the city. Then our plan would be to use the traffic data we did from an earlier traffic study out there, which we'd hoped would qualify for a light, but the numbers weren't high enough at the time. If we rerun those numbers with this project, with this intersection in the city, we think that we'll get a different answer and be in a position to go ahead, engineer, and then install a traffic signal at Brant and 598. We're going to try over the next few weeks to coordinate our project out there in support of the development along Brant Road and tie that into the now newly improved 598. I know they were meeting with the engineer today, city engineer, to discuss the recently completed ODOT project and how that will fit in or tie into this newly constructed road, which will open up that area for development and at the same time provide highway access to the new Valero station. So those, I know those to be big items on social media, the traffic on 598, the need to get something done with the traffic signal, and I feel that sense of urgency about as much as I think anyone in the community. So we're working on that, and we'll piece it together sort of component by component until we have the overall goal of a widened 598 from the new development north of Brant Road back to Carter Drive and where 3 lanes turn to 2.
Okay. Next question comes from Lynn. Is there going to be a bike path, and if so, when would it be finished?
Well, the bike path has been slowed in terms of construction this year, in part because of a little bit of a log jam, if you will, within the city engineers department. The short answer to the question is yes, there'll be a project. It'll likely be constructed next year. What we're hoping to do yet this fall, particularly when the leaves come off the trees, is do the actual surveying and then the engineering, the small amount of design work that would be required to put together a set of plans so that a segment of what it would be eventually a bike path, conceptually, to go from down at Amon's out to the Pico Park area. But it would initially go from Bucyrus Road, roughly, where that new boutique is going in, along the Olentangy, and back near the treatment plant over by Hosford Road. So the first segment is probably more of a a hiker walking trail than is actually a bike trail. But I think we've decided getting it started, even if it's a mile or so in length, is the right course. And so yes, we are going to build it. It is going to be designed yet this year, and we hope to be sold next year. The most of the money dedicated to the project right now has come from the Freeze Foundation, and I expect over the development of this project, you're probably going to see Freeze Foundation funds as a critical part of getting that long-term goal accomplished.
Okay. Next question comes from Abram. He would like to know, why don't we celebrate Galion's birthday?
You know, I can remember, it's a good question. I don't have an answer for it especially. I can remember way back when my wife and I moved back to town after I completed college, they had a sesquicentennial, which I think is 150 years. I know a celebration of the founding of Galion. And I know that I believe Bucyrus is going to have its bicentennial upcoming. So I think in terms of celebrating our birthday, I never heard that, but it does. I know around the corner, if you will, in a few years, it'll be time to look at planning a big celebration for our 200th anniversary as a community, as an incorporated town.
Okay, that's all the questions we have.
Okay, tomorrow night we've got just a few items on the agenda. We're going to activate the Travel and Tourism Bureau, so Experience Galion, if you know what they are and what they hope to do. you'll be an advocate of getting that passed so that they can begin to put money into travel and tourism events. Heck, we may even figure out a scheme, if you will, to put some of those travel and tourism dollars into depot renovation. So if you wanted to know what I've been working on the last couple of weeks, it's trying to come up with a credible, tangible funding plan so that we can move ahead with the depot renovation rather than be in a situation where we're kind of spinning our wheels. So trying to get a little traction on that and move ahead on some major freeze fund projects for next year and the years beyond that. So thanks for being patient with us and getting started, and certainly thank you for the questions we've had tonight. Talk to you in a couple of weeks. Good night.